the flower in the hair was an idea of Nike's. So the flower is the national flower of the Philippines. It's called the Sampaguita, and kind of the whole idea behind it is
In under 60 seconds, that's all it reportedly took for Alexa's Sampaguita Nike collection to vanish online. What started as a limited merch drop instantly transformed into a global statement of power. Alex Eala is already carrying the kind of emotional weight that brands spend decades trying to build. When Filipino fans watched those pieces disappear and resale prices spike almost instantly, this stopped being about shirts and shoes. It became proof that one player's story had reached escape velocity. The sold-out screen wasn't the end, it was the climax of something much bigger, a journey that began with a single flower. Just days earlier, Eala had walked off the Miami Open court after a brutal 6-0, 6-2 loss to Karolina Muchova. The sting of that defeat was still fresh in the minds of the audience, which made what happened next hit even harder. Nike's narrative around her had already begun taking shape, first with her 2025 Wimbledon center court debut, then deepening with the In Full Bloom shirt later that year. By February 27th, during her visit to Nike's world headquarters, the vision was unmistakable. Posters on the walls, Sampaguita pieces displayed, and Eala recreating her signature winning pose as if the brand already knew what was coming. So when the latest drop finally arrived, the only real question was how fast the world could click. There was no feud, no controversy, no villain. The tension came from something far more powerful: scarcity meeting devotion. Nike didn't just release another generic athlete collection and hope for attention. It built a story around the Sampaguita, the national flower of the Philippines, a symbol of resilience, identity, and home. Then it placed that symbol on a player whose fans don't just follow her story. They feel it. They protect it. They claim it. They wear it as their own. That's what made this moment so revealing. When a limited release meets a typical market, products slowly sell out. But when it meets a community that sees itself in the design, shelves don't empty, they collapse. Some media outlets even compared the frenzy to recent Nike drops from established stars, noting that those releases didn't generate anywhere near this level of heat. It's not a criticism. Apparel cycles move fast, and everyone in the sport understands that. But the comparison still matters, because it reveals where the energy truly is. And in late March 2026, that energy belonged to Alex. The first signal didn't come with this sellout, it started earlier. At Wimbledon 2025, Nike gave her a custom Sampaguita hair tie for her center court debut. One small detail, one flower, one cultural symbol, placed on one of tennis's biggest stages. And as Eala herself explained, that's exactly why it meant everything.
this was so special for me. First of all, to just have something that reminds me of where I come from, of my country and my culture, makes me special, is where I come from.
The Sampaguita is the flower of my country, a reminder of where I come from. That isn't decorative branding. That's an athlete carrying national memory onto the court, refusing to separate performance from identity. The flower in her hair was never a small detail. It was the origin. That Wimbledon moment was the seed. By July 2025, the story had evolved from symbolism into demand. The Nike by You, in Full Bloom, Sampaguita t-shirt, designed by Manila-based artist Georgina Camus, dropped in the Philippines and sold out fast. And that mattered, because it proved something critical. This wasn't a fluke. It was a pattern. First, the hair tie captured imagination. Then, the shirt proved people were willing to buy the story, not just admire it. That's how movements begin. Not with one viral moment, but with repeated behavior. The fans who connected with Eala's cultural message the first time came back the second time, this time with their wallets. And if you sensed back then that the Sampaguita was becoming bigger than a one-off Wimbledon accessory, you were ahead of the industry. Because eventually, the market caught up to what the fans already knew. July 2025 gave Nike proof. February 27, 2026 revealed intent. When Eala arrived at Nike's world headquarters in Oregon, the message was impossible to miss. Career posters, dedicated Sampaguita displays, special edition pieces, and one defining image, Eala recreating her signature celebration in front of a space that felt like a monument to her rise. No press release was needed. Coverage from ABS-CBN, social media posts, and lifestyle features all pointed in the same direction. Nike wasn't positioning her as a regional athlete. It was elevating her story with premium focus, surrounding her with visuals that felt less like marketing and more like legacy in motion. That visit wasn't a reward. It was Nike stepping directly into the movement. Then the collection dropped, and the numbers spoke for themselves. Fan trackers, tennis creators, and resale markets all told the same story. The latest Sampaguita-themed drop, shirts, shoes, accessories, sold out in under 60 seconds. Traffic surged. Listings vanished. And within minutes, items reappeared on resale platforms at nearly triple the retail price. The link went live. Moments later, everything was gone. Minutes after that, resellers were already circling. That's not casual interest. That's demand with momentum. That's not normal demand. That's flash flood demand. Put yourself in the position of anyone still calling this just hype. You're watching a limited collection tied to a 20-year-old Filipina player disappear at a speed usually reserved for global fashion collaborations and megastar sneaker drops. Not after a Grand Slam title. Not after finishing world number 1. Right now, while her on-court story is still unfolding in real time. The implication is massive. Her narrative is already monetizing at a level that forces the entire sport to pay attention. And once the collection sold out, the emotional peak landed exactly where it was always meant to, in the hands of the people. Across Asia and throughout the Filipino diaspora, fans flooded social media with pride posts, celebration edits, and sold-out screenshots. Resellers moved instantly, but that only told part of the story. The fan reaction told the truth. This wasn't just commerce. This was recognition. A nation's flower had crossed from on-court symbolism into something the world wanted to own, display, and chase. That's why this sellout hit deeper. The audience that believed Eala represented something bigger than ranking points never needed validation from a marketing team. They were there from the beginning. They saw the hair tie. They bought the shirt. And when the latest drop vanished in seconds, the rest of the tennis world was forced to catch up to what they already knew. Eala isn't riding a trend. She's creating one. Now add the most powerful voice in this entire story, Nike. This is the brand that's been with Eala since her teenage years. The one that turned a small Wimbledon detail into a full visual identity. The one that welcomed her into its Oregon headquarters, built Sampaguita-themed displays around her image, and elevated her cultural story as premium, not niche. And when Nike spoke, it didn't whisper. The Sampaguita is a flower that holds its own. And so does Alex, a lifetime in the making, with a nation behind her. That kind of statement isn't casual. Brands don't hand out identity-driven messaging like that lightly. They test it. They protect it. They reserve it for athletes whose stories can travel across borders and carry emotional weight. So when Nike frames Eala not just as a competitor, but as someone backed by an entire nation,